All right, again, so what we did was we took the one we were just working on and we grabbed every bit of that code, every bit that was in there, and we copied it into Payroll04. Then we moved the function main line down. Okay? That's what we've done so far. I'm just curious. So this is just for me. I want to see now if I go back to the 04 here. See, it's giving me an error for that. We may have to move these back again, and if we do, that's going to really gum stuff up. I've never had this happen before. There has never been a problem before with putting this stuff before main. You understand what I'm saying? It's never been a problem. So why is it now? That's a really good question that I wish I had an answer for. Payroll 04. And this is Payroll 04. All right. Now, I'm just wondering if we put those two lines back, if I do nothing else but put those two lines back, save, and then try to run it again. Still isn't working. Still giving me a main not defined. Well, again, we're going to have to live with this for the rest of the week here. All right. So. All right, I want to explain something to you. If this doesn't make total sense right now, don't let it bother you too much, but please look up on the screen, okay? Once we do this and we move this stuff that we just did, once we move this stuff here, once we put it inside a function main, it's now part of main. I'm not saying does that make sense. I'm just telling you. These variables now exist in main and exist nowhere else. But if we do this, like I asked you to do, if we do this and put them out here, we're going to write more functions right now. Now those variables should be available to every function. Did you hear me? All right, I'm going to try doing one more thing here, see if this helps it. Remember this thing we saw in the book that said use strict. I'm going to see if that helps anything. It may very well not. Let's look at it again. On the HTML. Ah, thank you. JS/. That'd do it. All right, thank you. So run. Ah, thank goodness. You get a gold star for today. All right. Yep, that was it. Thank you. No. Now, what I want you to do then, first put this at the top. Use strict. Put it in double quotes. If you remember, one of the things that I mentioned to you, and I gave you an analogy, maybe it wasn't a good one, but I told you how I had a friend in a band and how he said that if a guitar string broke while they were playing, he turned up the amp. But I also told you with the same friend, if he was playing his acoustic guitar and a string broke, everybody knew it. By using useStrict, you're making JavaScript a more strict language. You're telling it that some of this stuff you'd normally let JavaScript get away with, we're not going to let you get away with it now. The recommendation is that everything you write now, everything, should have useStrict at the beginning. I'm telling you that because I want that on your next program. Okay? All right. So now, and thank you again for that, we now have our constants. We now have our variables. All right? Now, what we want to do, look in here. We're inputting first name, then we're inputting last name, then we're inputting hours worked, then we're inputting hourly rate. Would you agree with that? All right. After we do that, then we're adding 1 to employees, then we're doing gross, then we're adding the total gross, then we're printing out, then we're saying, do you want to do it again? All right. And finally, when you fall out of the loop, we're doing this. All we want to change in here is we want to put each one of these things into its own routine. All right. So look up on the screen, please. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab all of the code that you see here, all of the code that starts with validate first name and it goes through the end, all that code. Look on the screen. Make sure you grab the right stuff. Grab all of that code that's right there, do a Control X, and we're going to stick it way down at the bottom of the program, after everything, after the ending curly brace, all of it. Way down at the bottom. We're going to put it in. But since it's a function, we have to give it a name. So we're going to say function. We're going to call it input first name.
You delete it off of the top part?
Yes, you do.
Oh, this is almost boring.
And first name is brand new now, so we have to put var in front of the first one. Okay? Then when we're all done, just one line. Return first name. That's our whole new function that we just wrote. Don't put it inside of the curly braces for main. Have it be all by itself.
Is there space between those two parentheses after the input first name?
Here?
Yeah.
No. It may not hurt if you put one in, but no. Either one of you want to take a wild guess as to what we want to do next? Do the same thing, but with a last name. So go up to the top, grab all the last name stuff, just like I've got on the screen there. Control X, cut, and then right under the input first name, we're going to put function input last name, and we're going to paste that in. Again, look on the screen. This first var that's right here, or this first last name, put a var in front of it. And then finally, we will return last name. So there's our second routine. We now have, I'm going to make this small so you can see them both. We now have, come on, one more. These two routines. Does that make sense? Make sure, like I said, look on the screen here. Oh, come on. I didn't touch anything. Make sure you put a var before the first time you use first name and when you use last name, and return first name here and return last name there. All All right?
Okay, curly braces are closed.
Where? These are all curly braces. Curly brace, curly brace, curly brace, curly brace. All curly braces. All right. Next, we're going to go back up to the top of our program, near the top. Now we're going to grab all the hours worked stuff. So everything that was in there for hours worked. Highlight all of it, Control X, move down to the bottom. We now will have function, input. I think we did hours worked there. I think that's what that was. Hours worked. And we're going to paste that in. Again, the first time you use it here, var. Just that one, not both of them, just the first one. And return hours worked. And as you figured it out last time, the next thing we're going to do in just a minute is the same thing with the hourly rate. So we'll do that in just a second. So here's the hours worked routine. I will quickly do the hourly rate. So that is those two functions. So all we're doing is, instead of putting everything in main in just a minute is going to become that driver, that supervisor that'll call the individual routines. All right, I'm going back up to my main. Now, look on the screen, please. See this? See that blank space? I have to call those functions. They don't automatically just run. So look up on the screen if you would. We want to now say input first name, and those are parentheses. Input last name, input hours worked, input hourly rate. Now we have our 4 routines, and we're calling our 4 routines. Now, if you'd stop for a minute, look on the screen. You could make a case. See this? We could make that into a function, or we could just leave that in main. See what I'm saying? We could make this a function, but since it's only one line, forget about the comments. Since it's only one line, let's leave it in main, okay? So, the next thing to do is to grab all the information about our gross pay, all this. Right there, all of that information about the gross pay. Control X to remove it. Come down to the very bottom. We'll call it function calculate gross pay. I will paste it in. I have to do two extra things. Look on the screen. First, at the top, I want to put in var gross pay, and I don't even need to do that. I don't need to do that because that's already known. Let's see. Yeah, let's do that. Now I can show you something else. Var gross pay, we'll set that equal to 0 right there. All right, and down here we're going to say return gross pay. All right, might be hard to read all that, so now you can read every bit of it. Did you notice if you look up on the screen, this says return this, return this, return this, return this, and return this. So we're returning something, but, this is important, you got to look on the screen here. We're not putting it any place. So we should change this to first name equals last name equals hours worked equals hourly rate equals. Now gross pay equals calculate gross pay. Look in here and make sure yours looks like this. The great news is we're done in 5 or 10 minutes. Make sure you say first name equals. When you return, it stuffs the value in there. Then when you return from last name, it stuffs the value in there. When you return from input hourly hours worked, it stuffs the value in there. When you return from input hourly rate, it stuffs the value in there.
I typed first name at the beginning and tab.
Don't hit tab, just hit the space bar. Weird things happen with Apple machines. They just do. So here we're adding 1 to our total employees. Then we're figuring out our gross pay. Here we're adding that gross pay to our total gross pay. Does all that make sense? So there's only 2 more things to do. 3, but we'll do them fast. All right, the next thing to do is I want to grab everything just in the alert, all that stuff. Cut it, and we're just going to call, up here we're going to say print employee payroll info. Print employee payroll info, right there. Print employee payroll info, paren. Then come down to the bottom, and we're going to put that in there. Function, print, employee, info. And we don't have to declare any variables. We don't have to do anything. We just drop that in there. What did I call it up here? Whatever I called it here is what you should say. Print employee payroll info. Thank you. So yeah, that's what it should be called. And all we did was we dropped.
Is there a semicolon at the end of it?
Here? Never.
No, at the top, the other one. Print employee payroll info. Underneath
Up here?
the one that Keegan just pointed out.
This one.
Yes.
Yes, there's a semicolon always at the end. All right. Next, we're going to grab all this stuff where it says again. Grab every bit of that. All right. Control X, and we're going to call run program again or not. Stupid name, but it works. Run program again or not, semicolon. Paren, semicolon. Run program again or not, paren, semicolon. And then we're going to come down here, function, run program again or not, and we're going to drop all that in there. Finally, the only thing that's left is what do we do once we fall out of that loop? See this alert? Remember this one we did at the end? Right there? Let's grab that, Control X, and we're going to call this, we're going to call this print final payroll info, paren. Print final payroll info, paren. Print final payroll info, paren.
Why is there a bracket right there?
This?
No, the one above print.
That's because you want to do it outside of this while loop. We only want to do this once when we're all done. Print final payroll info, paren. I'm going to put that down here. Function print final payroll info. Now, you don't have to do this, but look on the screen. Some people like to do this. All right, they like to take and grab everything and make sure that everything is kind of like in its own little section. See what I'm doing here? And I'm going to hit enter. So watch what I'm doing. You don't have to do this. But before the beginning of each function, I'm going to do that. So that now every function has got their own like little beginning, which ends the previous one. But again, you don't have to do this. All right, Control S. Now, let's run it, see if it still works. Hey, that's a good start. Okay, I made 500. Yeah, I'll run it again. Maya, 50. Let's say she makes 20 bucks an hour. She got her overtime. Yes. Keegan. He got his overtime. Want to keep going? No. 3 employees, $3,100. And we're done. All right, so I can print this one off too. The point is, look what we did. We took a pretty complex payroll program and literally in 20 minutes, 25 minutes, we converted it into a fully modularized program. Oh, it makes it easier. You're right, but let's take it further than that. Let's pretend for a second there's a problem with this program. All right, you with me? There's a problem in this program. The problem is figuring out the gross pay. It's doing it wrong. Okay, so now we know that problem has to be in here, in those 20 lines of code. It can't be anywhere else in the program. That's why you modularize programs. All right? It's the same kind of thing. Imagine that you know, I have 10 rooms in my house and I have 10 employees. And I make each employee clean a room. And now the master bathroom looks like dirt. And I'm really ticked off. As soon as I can find out who that employee was, I know who's to blame. Does that make sense? It's the same kind of thing. You modularize so you can take code and ideally make each function should be doing one thing. Not only that, if you look at what we did here, main is the driver. So what's it doing? It's calling input first name, input last name, input hours worked, input hourly rate. This doesn't say input. We're not inputting anything. We're calculating the gross pay. We're printing. We're asking the user if you want to run it again. And we're printing. So I tried to come up with names that reflected what we were trying to do. Does that make sense? All right. Now, the other way of doing this, and you're probably not going to like this, but some programming languages don't like it when you take all of this information here, all of this, and make it global. Constants, you can always make your constants global. It's not a problem in any language that I know of. But in some languages, you don't do this. You don't make all these variables global. What does that mean? That means that instead of defining them here, you define them in main. And when you call these routines, I'd have to pass here. First name, I'd have to pass here. Last name, I'd have to pass here. Hours worked, I'd have to pass here. It's making a copy of it, and it's sending it to that routine. Here I'd have to pass in both hours worked and hourly rate. Here, everything. First name, last name, hours worked, hourly rate, gross pay. Here, I'd have to pass in total number of employees, total gross pay. Does that make sense? Right? That's just too much to be thrown at you right now. Again, I think you can handle it. But when you do your next test, you don't need a copy. You said yours works, right? All right. I mean, you want a copy, I can make you one. You want one or you don't? Okay. But you should now be able to take and write a routine both without functions and with functions. We went back and we looked at the test the other day, right? So you should be able now to figure out how to write a program like that BMI program. Okay? Now, let's go back and look at this. So far, this is what you were supposed to be turning in so far. Homework for 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, and 3-4. What you got for this assignment, nothing for 5. See that? But for 4, 4-1, 4-2, and 4-3. So let's look at those. Develop a sales tax calculator. All right, you'll develop a sales tax that calculates the sales total and the invoice. Well, like, well, wait a minute, there's buttons and stuff. We didn't do that. That's what we're doing tomorrow. All right, but just so you know that, you'll have to do that one. And then this change calculator. This is kind of a neat program because you could put in there, you don't have to make it 0 to 99. For instance, I could put in here that I have $1,800, and I could figure out the best way to do that with change. All right, you can even add dollars onto this if you want to. You don't have to. It's not a hard program. And then an income tax calculator. This is what you'd pay for income tax. Now, you're single? True? No. Are you married or are you single? And you're single? The reason I'm saying that is, and maybe I told you this, the first time as a single guy, okay, it used to be different. You used to not have to get a social security number until you got a job. So I didn't get one until I was 16. I got hired at a place. I went in and got a social security number. Guess what? Took them almost 2 months to send it to me. So I was working technically illegally because I didn't have a social security number. What did that mean? It means they couldn't pay me. Since I didn't have a social security number, they couldn't pay me because they couldn't put it in their books. So when I finally got paid, all right, it was for over 2 months worth of work. They took off over 50% in taxes. Nope, they couldn't do that. It would be against the law for them to do that. So when you look at this, I was taxed higher than any of these rates right here. Because I remember that. I made was like a little over 500 bucks, and I got like 230. They took like 270 bucks off in taxes. And my dad just laughed at me. He thought it was hilarious. All right. It's like, well, welcome to the world, son. So these are the ones you have to do that are due next week. Did you hear that? No, these are going to be on your own time. What we're going to do in class tomorrow is, as I mentioned to you earlier, is we are going to look at this calculator one that we are going to redo, and it's a lot less typing than today. See that? That's the whole thing. All right? So this is the one that I showed you. We're going to do that. You're going to do this one. And I'm going to give you the CSS, and I'll give you the HTML. We're just going to concentrate on the JavaScript. All right, so when you come in here tomorrow, you'll have something called like Calculator 2, and it'll have an empty JavaScript file in it. It'll have all of the CSS and all of the, so yours will look like this when you run it, but when you press the buttons, nothing will happen. So that's what we're going to concentrate on tomorrow. We should be able to do that. No, it should take no longer than from 8 till maybe 9:30, even with a break in there. All right, so you'll have 2 hours tomorrow. It's now 9:57. You have basically 2 hours today. All right, so if you're still working on, remember, the by Friday, your midterm is due. All right, so you can work on that. Questions? All right. So let me check. Did this ever finish? Yes, it did. Good deal.
I never